Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell, I thought that it was interesting because you could see early in the fight that Garcia had never really fought anybody at this level. Particularly, he had fought some talented dudes and he had fought some guys, but at the end of the day, he hasn't really before this like fought anybody that tested him mentally and physically in this kind of way. What I noticed early was that as far as boxing tactics, Campbell was actually winning some of those early rounds with his, but he was also winning the small battles. He was getting his front foot on the outside. He was punching Ryan at some weird angles. And particularly in the first round and a half, he was countering with his left hand to the body very well, very consistently, super accurate. And it kind of looked a little bit like Ryan was a little bit out of his depth. I mean, he was throwing nice shots and whatever, but there wasn't much landing. And then, of course, like towards the end of the second round, Campbell drops Garcia. And it was so funny, man, because the commentators are so hot and cold on these guys. Like the minute he went down, they're like, is he the goods? Can he deliver? Like they're immediately just like writing him off. But what was great was that like by the end of the second round, he was coming forward. And I don't think Campbell pressed that moment as much as he could have. I think on one hand, there's the smarts of it, right? Like, all right, I got this one. The kid doesn't look that hurt. He's still dangerous. Like, let me be smart. Let me be practical. But there's also like those moments don't always come. So if you don't really press that moment and see where he's at, it's like he settled for, I got a 10-8 round in a sense. I didn't feel like he really went after him. And then on top of that, Ryan landed a really hard left hook to the body, like kind of at the end of the second round. And I noticed that slowed Campbell's pace down a bit, and then I felt like as a whole, I don't have my score in front of me, but, I felt like as a whole, the third and the fourth were pretty close. The fifth was pretty close as a whole as well. And then Garcia like really stuns Campbell at the end of the fifth, literally like on the bell, he's like turning his back. And that was probably the turning point of the fight, or at least the tone of the fight, where, it's a chess match. It's pretty 50-50. Maybe Ryan's edging the rounds, some of the rounds on activity, but in my opinion, the overall, the cleaner shots are coming from Campbell. But that moment really kind of changed the dynamic of the fight. And then the beginning of the sixth, he's just ripping combinations. And it was funny in the seventh round, right before he drops Campbell with the body shot, Campbell actually hits Garcia with a pretty hard body shot. And you could see that was like the answer to it. But the thing was, Campbell had his right glove up so high, like up here, waiting for that left hook, that his whole body was exposed and he just sort of was wide open for it in that moment. I mean, he wasn't defending for that shot at all. So he probably didn't see it coming. And then once it dropped him, he was done. You could see it. You could see his legs were fucking done. I know he got up at the end, but it was just like, at least I thought there wasn't any way that he was going to be able to keep Garcia off of him. It was a matter of time. The shot landed so perfectly. And I think it's very clear that Ryan Garcia's got some nice punching power. He's a legitimate power puncher now. And I don't know, I think that there were some things that we learned about his game from this fight, good and bad. I think the good is he showed that he's a real fighter, man. He got dropped. He showed a heart and a chin and got up. And by the end of the round, he was coming forward. And that's what you want to see from a young fighter, particularly one that is being spoken about in these high praises, the way the zone talks about him. And so that part was really dope. He took the shot, he got up, he kept coming forward. He started stepping on Campbell's foot, or at times winning the front foot on the outside battle. And he also showed a certain level of class because he was able to get Campbell on the ropes and throw nice combinations. And he was actually, like from the fifth round on, did a really nice job cutting the ring off and actually started moving his upper body a little bit to avoid punches. But I think it was cool to watch him kind of get that education though, because the first couple of rounds you could see he was like, I don't want to say lost, but he wasn't used to having to be that switched on or that engaged. Like it's been so easy for him because of the opponents that he's been fighting, and because he's talented, but because of the opponents he's been fighting, it's been easy to walk through all these dudes, and then he's coming at this with that same attitude. And he gets caught because Campbell's been throwing the left to the body, and he goes to parry like he's going to block a body shot, and he gets caught on the side. And I think what that shows is that defensively he's got some things he's got to work on, right? He's very kind of chin up in the air. He kind of walks forward casually with that front hand down. He's kind of, his chin is there to be hit. And a lot of times, too, when you start throwing at him, he backs straight up. So if you can follow that up and maintain your position, he's moving back, you can catch him. So, and to be honest with you, his main defense is just sort of bouncing backward and getting away from you. He doesn't do a lot of head movement, right? He doesn't have a lot of, he doesn't catch shots with his gloves instinctually. That's not his instinct. Right now, and maybe that's just because he's got to keep fighting better guys, but right now his instinct is to come forward with his hands kind of low. So, bigger punch is going to be able to take advantage of that in a serious way. You know what I'm saying? Like if he takes the kind of shots he took from Luke Campbell, from Teofimo Lopez, from Gervonta Davis, from Lomachenko, from Devin Haney, I think that they're going to affect him even more. So on one hand, it's like he showed that he's a real fighter. He showed some real balls. He showed some grit. You know what I mean? He showed some real grit and some adaptability. But it's also, too, like if he doesn't make these adjustments, these defensive adjustments, if he doesn't learn how to fight on angles more and learn how to, like Canelo, how to move your upper body and move your head to create offense, as he moves up, he's going to continue to have more complications like that. Guys that are, another guy that they were talking about him fighting a few months ago was Jorge Linares. To be fair, Linares has much faster hands than Luke Campbell. Campbell's got nice speed, but Linares is a very fast, twitchy combination puncher. If he's leaving his chin out like that when he punches, I think that Linares would have the speed and the coordination and the technique to catch him and kind of fuck him up. That I'm not saying that he can beat him, but I'm saying somebody like that, when you keep moving up levels, guys are going to present even more challenges. So if your game is not buttoned up, they'll expose that. You know what I'm saying? But I actually would like to see the Linares fight. I would really like to see, and I talked about this episodes ago when they were actually trying to make the fight. But I think that, first of all, Linares also beat Luke Campbell by decision. He also dropped Luke Campbell. And there was a time where Linares was Ryan Garcia. He was kind of like the young prospect that was, not in the same level of fame because it was a different time before social media and shit. But 10 years ago, Linares was a Ryan Garcia type. And what he's actually shown is great skill, but at the same time, a certain level of vulnerability to being caught and to being a little chinny. But he's also shown resilience to keep coming back and to keep winning at a high level. And I think he's got the right level of experience and speed and combination punching to give Ryan Garcia stylistically a lot of problems. And if he does win, I think it'll be like this kind of fight where he comes out of it with some real lessons and he comes out of it a better fighter. So that's actually what I would hope for him next, would be a fight with Jorge Linares. Hopefully we get to see that at some point.